Since the US Endangered Species Act passed through Congress in 1973, an astonishing 2,000 species have been included on the list. The role of this act is to ensure that species do not become extinct through human actions. The polar bear, Urus maritimus, is the first species to be included on this list through a computer-generated model, rather than hard scientific reasoning. The model projected that if climate change continued at business as usual, the polar sea ice which polar bears depend on would disappear, causing the extinction of the species. Polar bears use this sea ice for the foraging of marine animals and will ultimately spend the majority of their lifetime on the ice. The aim of the study, conducted by Armstrong, D. Weaver, Douglas Marcotte, Derner, Bitts and Bailey, was to first examine whether an increase in temperature would lead to a proportional decrease of sea ice, and therefore the polar bear's habitat. Also whether the temperature change caused by greenhouse gas would reach a life-threatening tipping point, therefore having permanent effects on the polar bears, in which case the mitigation of greenhouse gases would have no benefit to the bears. Although they were also interested in whether greenhouse gas mitigation could turn the tables and improve the future outlook for the bears. A Bayesian network model was used to show this. This is a probabilistic graphical model that represents a set of random variables and their dependencies via a graph. The verdict of the model were that greenhouse gas mitigation resulted in cooler temperatures and therefore greater sea ice retention, an important habitat feature of the bears. An alternate hypothesis that an increase in temperature would lead to a proportional decrease of sea ice was found to be correct. Numerous methods were conducted in order to completely rule out the chance of there being a tipping point. The different methods were basically different scenarios plotted into the existing Bayesian network model. These included different emission scenarios and different ecosystems reactions to the sea ice loss. Although in the models the outcome of tipping point was unlikely, in the real world a tipping point could still potentially occur. Studies have shown that in the September ice loss from 2006 to 2007 was equal to the amount between 1976 and 2006. This could indicate a tipping point may have already been crossed. While this might be the case, the sea ice is still at a great enough level to support the polar bear's way of life, and the greenhouse gas mitigation of the last years should be enough to sustain them for the foreseeable future. Even though there were no updated articles on the polar bear's placing on the endangered species list, there are numerous articles highlighting the effect that climate change and the melting sea ice is having on the bears and other Arctic species, and how they'll have to adapt or how the human way of life needs to change to help not only the polar bears but all species. This study shows that the public's efforts to control and curb the greenhouse gas effect are working, and the pessimistic prediction of the polar bear's extinction was inaccurate. Therefore, reducing greenhouse gas emissions is the key for preservation of sea ice, which in turn could keep the polar bear an existing animal on Earth. Thank you.